You're still watching Today on eNCA with myself, Mfundo Mabalani. Now, the African Transformation Movement is not backing down on its mandate. The party says it's submitting a new motion of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, this follows the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment that ordered the ATM's request be referred back for fresh consideration. But what does this mean for Ramaphosa's leadership? For more on this, leadership expert Professor Mazwe Majola and political analyst Sipho Seepe join us via Zoom. Gentlemen, thank you very much both for your time. Now, granted, this is a legal case, but we know the possible political implications of this ruling, which is what we will try to confine ourselves to today. But just to get your view on the judgment itself, I know ATM was very happy and some assuming there will now be a vote of no confidence through a secret ballot, but really the judge stressed that for their part, they were merely looking at the proper exercise of the Speaker's discretion, saying onus should have never been on ATM to make out a case for a secret ballot. The part of not granting the secret ballot or not, the court said, was neither here nor there or was not their concern on that day. So what do you make of just that ruling? Perhaps to start with you, Professor Seepe.
Well, first of all, it's very important that the issue of a secret ballot is discussed in this country. It came as a result of concerns that MPs, because of the position that they hold within parties, that parties, there could be certain reprisals if they take certain positions that may not be in accordance to their party position. And the matter ultimately went to the Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court reminded members of Parliament that when they took oath of office, the oath of office expected that they were going to vote according to their conscience. And there was an attempt to make a distinction between the party position and the conscience of members of a party. And we saw, whereas in the past members tended to vote as voting cattle, that the party headquarters will dictate which way to vote. The Constitutional Court judgment provided almost a cover-up for members of the Parliament to use their conscience as opposed to party dictates. But unfortunately, it was also suggested that for as long as motions are carried in open, not a secret ballot, it will still be difficult. So the whole notion is the Speaker must make a determination whether, when there is a motion of no confidence, whether a secret ballot or open ballot is the most preferable. But what the Speaker had done, the Speaker had almost suggested that the onus was on the party that was bringing the motion of no confidence to prove that the secret ballot is the most preferable. And what the Supreme Court of Appeal had suggested is that the Speaker, in arriving at that decision, had not applied her mind properly. So the matter was now being brought for her to make, for the office to make a fresh decision. So now you have a new Speaker who will then have to look at this matter to say, given the circumstances, and given the context, what form of ballot will be most preferable to empower the MPs to exercise their oversight responsibility? So this is the question that she will have to grapple with. That's why the court has said that they will not get into that space. But the ATM will hopefully want to push for a secret ballot, because the secret ballot is being seen as the best way in which you can protect members of a party. And we remember also that during Jacob Zuma, whereas the ANC had always voted as a bloc, there was a time when members of the ANC also voted with the opposition, and they could do that under the cover of the secret ballot. So the question is, should the secret ballot be the only way that the members of the Parliament can exercise their conscience? So that will be the issue that the ATM will want to propose, and also members of various parties would like to explore.
Professor, I do actually want to tackle the outcome of during the Zuma administration, because it never resulted in him actually being removed, nevertheless, even though there was that cover of the secret ballot. But before we get to that, let's just get Professor Mazwe's view on the judgment itself. Professor, your take?
Well, yeah, the irony is that when they vote, when Parliament vote in for the presidency or for the speaker, they use the secret ballot, you know. So that has been the argument of ATM, that why, when then we are putting a vote of no confidence, you don't want to use the secret ballot, because it's something that is used and it's something that can be used. So we are yet to hear from the speaker whether she will appeal or defend this judgment, or if they will accept it. But the question will always be why the speaker will be afraid of secret ballot, you know, because if they want to be transparent, if they want to be open, and then they can use all the instruments that are provided for by the Constitution.
But would we really phrase it as them being afraid, or rather them feeling that there's no basis for it? The prevailing political climate doesn't necessitate a secret ballot, perhaps. I don't want to speak for her, but I'm just saying that the word afraid of a secret ballot might be one that some wouldn't prefer to the secret ballot itself. It's nothing new. We saw it with former President Jacob Zuma. The reality is there can be great dissatisfaction within a political party with the current leader. But it seems there have never been many politicians that would place their own livelihoods on the line by voting out a president, but would opt for an internally managed type of process, just like what we saw with Jacob Zuma, because he eventually stepped down, but it was managed internally. So do you really see something different this time around?
Well, if you defend something at all cost, there will be reasons for that. That's why really I'm using the word afraid. So there will be something that made you, or to cause you to do that. I mean, fear will be one of it. That maybe this might tend. I mean, we know that the speaker is a member of the ANC. So the president is the member of the ANC. And I like when we are using the environment, whether is the environment conducive, are they free, are they confident enough or rather, are they confident enough that if a secret ballot would be tabled or be used for a no confidence motion, will the president make it or not? So as a party, as the ANC, obviously they will have to grapple with that before they can say yes or no, whether they're using the Constitution or they're using the laws of the country. Yes, they may do that, but as a party, they will grapple with those dynamics.
Professor Seepe, do you think the divisions within the ANC at this point are so grave that many politicians would somehow compromise their own livelihoods and just have the president stepping down?
Well, the ANC understands fully well what the motion of no confidence means, and that means a collapse of government, because once the president goes, so does cabinet.
Yes.
So they would be very careful about wanting to go that route. But at the same time, they've also seen that the public had already spoken about when members of a party put the interest of the party above the country. So when you take an oath of office and you say you are going to be guided by your conscience, what is expected is that you're going to put the interest of the people of this country first. You're going to put the country first. So the members now understand that the public have already spoken. I mean, we just had an election, and if people were to talk about this being a referendum on the ANC, what the public had actually said to the ANC is that you have not behaved well. So if you take the position of the public and you take the wranglings within the party itself, then it will be too risky for them to go through a secret ballot. So they want it to be an open ballot. And so the issue of fear does come because of the ramifications and the implications. So I don't think the party that is not united will want to risk that, because there may be some people within the ANC who are so unhappy as members of the ANC with the president that they will vote for the opposition. But the ANC's position has always been very clear that they do not take the directives from a general from another party.
Yes.
So they would want to, like you correctly said, that if we want to remove the president, we will do so. So you saw even those members of the ANC who voted against the former president, they were not in the majority. But ultimately, the ANC made a decision on its own that they will facilitate the removal of their own, because he is their own and they can control that process. But they don't like the idea of being given marching orders by another party, and especially when that party is an opposition party.
So in essence, this could possibly be a futile exercise on the part of ATM if we actually were to consider, because there were some deep divisions even then under former President Jacob Zuma, but still, nevertheless, they decided to close ranks and say, listen, this will be a process that we will manage internally. We won't take orders from opposition. So is it not really futile?
No, I don't think it will be necessarily futile. Well, depending on the outcome, what if you were to find a number of members if members of the ANC were to vote and the number was going to be significant, it will weaken the president, who's already weak within the party, because the party is not united. So the ATM is simply pushing for that. I don't think it is so much that the president will be removed. It is more about the deepening the crisis within the ANC. Remember, the position of opposition parties is also looking at 2024. So having a weak president also means that you're also going to have a weaker party. So you don't go and campaign with a person who's already weakened. So
Professor Seepe, is he really a weak president? Apologies to interject there, but is he really a weak president? Because we report on this, we all theorize about what's happening outside of the political party, even as media practitioners. We've got views, people can say he's weak, but what happens inside the NEC? Sometimes you find the so-called RET faction not getting their way. If we're talking about the step aside, many people had to step aside. So are we really being honest about him being weak, or really what happens inside the NEC is something completely different to what we could possibly be reporting on?
Well, if you go to elections and you are put as a public face of the party and the people reject you, that has an effect. I mean, I'm using the reject in a sense that this is the first time that you had the ANC scoring below 50%. This is the first time that the ANC has lost so many metros. So that does not embolden the president. If you are leading a party, you want to register winning. At the moment, what has been registered is not winning. The ANC may try to spin it out, but they have, at least some of their leaders have accepted that we are bruised by this outcome. So I don't think politically you are stronger if you lose, and you lose the major metros to the opposition. So it is weakness in that political sense in terms of where the voters stand. And the voters are also sending a message to say, if you're not going to pay attention to us, and if for the last 4 years you've been in power, they are saying we're not impressed. That does not strengthen you. It simply means that you must change course. So that in itself it weakens the trajectory that you had already accepted. And if you're going to continue that way, what it means is that you're going to get more of the same results. So that is weak in that sense.
But in Parliament, though, it wouldn't be the citizens that took to the polls. It would be parliamentarians, which are ANC deployees. But nevertheless, perhaps to rope you in, Professor Majola, we keep hearing of a possible serious contestation at the 2022 elective conference, somewhat on the scale of Nasrec. But if you look around, most of those who contested then I think, would hardly be in a position to contest now. I don't know, you tell me. We've got Zweli Mkhize, he's got the Digital Vibes cloud now. Lindiwe Sisulu was accused of hiring lobbyists in the department to prepare ground for the 2022 contest. We don't know how true that is, but it's an accusation now that just keeps flying around. And Ace Mahashule is now busy with the asbestos case and possibly the human settlements one for 500 million prepayment. And Didi Mabuza is quite quiet. Could there really be that type of a contest on the scale of Nasrec 2017 next year?
Well, anything in politics is possible. Yes, Ramaphosa has tried to strengthen his base. You've seen when he changed the cabinet that he really bring the people that closer to him, his faction. So in that case, yes, you can say that he's tried to have people, especially at the NEC level. But when you go to the conference, it's a different story, because we have heard already, even inside the ANC, there are those who feel that the current ANC leadership is the weakest ever that the movement has ever had. So people inside, they are complaining about this leadership, because remember, leadership is performance. If you have not performed, I mean, then we are not a good leader. I mean, we are not. We are there really just to warm your seat. So with the results of the local government elections, so you can see that really Ramaphosa is in a very, very precarious position. And unfortunately for him, it just does not seem to be cracking it. Unfortunately, you know, I sympathize for him as a leader, because he just don't get it. You know, everything is just against him. You look at the job losses, you look at the economic, it's against him, the economic growth, you look at the high level of unemployment, poverty, inequality, corruption, and nothing you can really pinpoint and say at least he has tried here, except arguable. Maybe you can say that maybe the way he has handled the coronavirus pandemic since its inception, or as I'm saying that, I mean, those who will criticize him and those who will vituperate him. So it's unfortunately that he is just not getting it right.
But what about the argument, Professor? What about the argument that some of these issues predate his leadership? That here he is, he's trying to resolve the issues created before.
Yes. You know, next year, February, when the president is opening the parliament, or when he is doing his speech of the nation, that will be his 4th year in office. So you can imagine that reality. It would have been taking him for 4 years to correct whatever that needed to be corrected. Yes, certain things, they needed time. He had to change some processes. He had to put new people in certain positions. But unfortunately, as a leader, he has the power, he has the influence, he has the authority to make sure that the people that he put there are people who are competent and diligent. Remember
but is that not double standards? Is that not double standards, Professor? Because here we're saying 4 years. I'm not doing anyone's bidding, but nevertheless, we're saying in 4 years he should have corrected. But we also do say that if we're talking apartheid, it's going to take longer than the 27 years. I mean, corruption has been entrenched. What's happening in Mpumalanga might have nothing to do with the president or benefit the current president. You've got people in a municipality, in a remote area, perhaps in Bombela, that might be corrupt there, and it has absolutely nothing to do with his leadership, but it is so entrenched. So it will take a lot more, wouldn't you say?
He's got power, he's got influence, he's got authority, leadership is performance. The buck stops at him, the buck stops with him. So he's the one who changes the cabinets, who fires the ministers, who appoints them. So he's the one who can identify the most diligent and competent people and put them there and say, guys, I need this to be done by this time. So, I mean, he's the one, yes, there are factors, obviously, other factors, they may be beyond him, but as I'm saying that, in the 4 years, he should be able to show the country that since I came in, this is what I've done. That's why I'm saying, in terms of correcting and changing structures and systems, he has done that. But the global ills that are really hampering this country are not getting better. The job is not doing well when it comes to job creation. It's not doing well when it comes to economic growth. It's not doing well when it comes to employment, poverty, skyrocketing, inequality, corruption. Unfortunately, the people that he has put there, they are not helping him as well, because they are not showing up and say we are performing, and especially let's take for instance NPA. I mean, we are talking about corruption. How many people have been convicted? How many people have been sent to jail? How many people, because remember, the president's performance is directly linked to the performance of cabinet ministers, and the cabinet ministers' performance is linked to the government officials. So he does have that power to remove whoever he wants to remove. Otherwise, people will always point at him.
Professor Seepe, just in closing, do you foresee the Deputy President, Didi Mabuza, resurfacing on a slate of the current President, Cyril Ramaphosa?
Well, that would be speculative, but what is important is President Ramaphosa, when he got into a position as a president, he made promises. So the issue of performance against his promises is what people are judging on. So you can talk about inheriting all this, but if you've inherited, don't make promises that you cannot meet. Because if you fail, people are going to say, this is what you said. And almost every area that he had made promises on, he has actually failed. So this can no longer be an issue of saying double standard. It's about where you've placed yourself. Remember, we started with Ramaphosa. That was full of promises. Right now, we're talking about Ramageddon. So the issue is, the message has been very clear that the president, you have not been performing. You have not been leading. So it is about the time that you change. So it is what the message is should be very simple, to be saying, I've tried this in the last 4 years, and this has not worked. So give people something else, but don't overpromise, because you're going to be judged on that.
No, it will be interesting to see what happens in Parliament if indeed we have the Speaker acceding to that demand of a vote of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa through a secret ballot. But thank you very much, gentlemen. That was leadership expert Professor Mazwe Majola, as well as political analyst Professor Sipho Seepe, just talking to us there.